at that particular place. And, you know, but many Nigerians want to agree or disagree to say, yes, maybe things has improved, but it's not really something worth celebrating. And now, the dimension of kidnappings and abductions, especially with clergymen, you know, religious, you know, leaders, and it's one that we should talk about. Everybody deserves to be protected, but then the clergymen are shouting, they are talking, and they are saying, you know, there are documents, publications that show that nearly 150 Catholic priests, this one is from the Catholic Church in Nigeria, nearly 150 Catholic priests kidnapped across Nigeria in past decade, in the last 10 years. At least 11 of them were killed as well. And there is another document that says 145 priests kidnapped in 10 years, 11 of whom are being killed and 4 are still missing. That's in the last 10 years. That's the angle of religious leaders. And these days, many of them are being kidnapped over and over. Students are being kidnapped from their universities. You know, commuters are being kidnapped and abducted on the road. But yeah, the federal government is saying things have improved. But then we have a university don, a security scholar, who will give us, you know, what he thinks and knows is happening, because he's the professional here. And of course, he doubles as the Deputy Vice Chancellor at Achievers University in Owo. By every standard, he's a voice. We are pleasured, you know, very, very happy to have with us Professor Aremu Oyesoje, better still Oyesoje Aremu, joining us virtually. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me to your program.
Yeah,
good morning, Nigerians.
It's good to see you again, sir.
Thank you so much. Same here.
But what I would say is, it's not good to keep talking about issues of insecurity and with different dimensions, and this is what we are seeing at this time. We have talked about many security issues, or insecurity, if we might put it, Prof, on this program. But now the clergymen are talking, they are shouting, their parishioners are kidnapped, the clergymen are kidnapped, students are kidnapped, almost everybody. But the president is saying things have improved. Do you agree?
Yeah, thank you so much. Once again, good morning.
Yes, sir.
I think in this question, you roll 3 questions into one. That we've been talking about the issue of insecurity. For how long are we going to be talking about the issue of insecurity? I want to tell you that as much as time will permit us, as much as years will roll in, we're going to talk about the issue of insecurity. But then, what we should be talking about, like I always mention, every time I talk about and pontificate on the issue of security, is that the absence of insecurity is security. In other words, name it, everywhere globally, countries talk about the issue of security. So in other words, they talk about the issue of security in making sure that they do not have relapse, they do not have issues that will lead to a kind of, for them to be counterproductive. In other words, they are talking about the issue of security proactively. Number 2 is the issue of why do we continue to have kidnapping here and there. And most especially the focus this morning, talking about the Catholics, priests. Then you also mentioned the issue of students. And again, from the statistics you roll out, it shows this has been on, from the information from the church, Catholic Church, that this has been on for 10 years. This shows that this is not new. As regards the students, again, I must tell you that it's not a new thing in the country. So we've had cases of kidnapped students, pupils. You remember the Chibok girls. You remember some colleges of education students. You remember even the issue of some university students in Kaduna and in other places as well. Even down, even if we come to the southwest, we also remember of the kidnapping of some secondary school students in somewhere in Ekpe in Lagos. Then the last question has to do with the fact that Mr. President said all is well. I think we are getting better on the issue of security. In a way, I want to say yes, and another I want to say no. You see, as a teacher, before you can say something is better, because you can see a student passes very well or do very well in his or exam or test, I think it's from 70, 80, or probably 90%. So if I want to award them allot marks to the issue of security index in Nigeria, I will not give that mark. So even if also from that perspective, as a teacher or as a lecturer, I would say it is not yet wuru for Nigerian security. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you once again for joining us. Now, talking about security, talking about the kidnappings of Catholic priests, my question is this. The presidency has claimed that the situation has improved. But I'd like to look at it from this angle. Before we can say, just like you said, Prof, that before we can say we've improved, there has to be some measures. Now, according to the reports released by Agenzia Fides, this report shows the case in the past 10 years. Personally, Prof, I have tried to check, because before we can say we have improved, we need to compare year to year. Okay, but what we have now in this report are figures for 10 years. So if actually we have improved, it means it was worse in previous years. Maybe it has been reducing. But unfortunately, I have not been able to lay my hands on the figures per year of Catholic priests kidnapped, because what they release is for 10 years. Prof, I'd like to ask, do we have such data? Because before we can say we've improved, perhaps more people were kidnapped, more priests were kidnapped in previous years. And if truly there has been a decline, the presidency would be right to say there's been improvement. So do we really have such data as to the actual number of priests that were kidnapped before now for the presidency to say it has improved?
Thank you so much. Just as you said, by the time you mentioned this to me, and I also tried to find out, putting up my research lenses as regards the number of Catholic priests kidnapped in Nigeria. I do not have that categorical, I use the word categorical data on the number of priests, Catholic priests kidnapped in the last 10 years. The information we are having is from the church, and it's from an organization of the church. And of course, in a way, I think one want to believe that I wouldn't want to say that the church is not coming out with the facts, because the church knows it, and the church knows what is happening to the priesthood in the church. So the church, the organization in the church may be right, I will put it that way, may be right for you to have come out with that figure. And again, probably this figure is not known to the federal government. I use the federal government, but it may not be known to the federal government. I'm very, very sure it will be known to some other organizations within and outside Nigeria, which roll out talking about what is the threshold of Nigeria. In other words, we look at Nigeria vis-a-vis other countries globally. The Global Terrorism Index released, I think it was March 5. Yes, March 5 this year. Put Nigeria as being on number 6, talking about Global Terrorism Index globally. And when we say Global Terrorism Index, everything rolls into it. In other words, talking about kidnapping, talking about terrorism, talking about banditry, everything rolls into that analysis to have placed Nigeria on number 6. And again, if you look at where we are coming from, some 10, 13, 14 years ago, Nigeria was even number 3. So at a point, we moved to number 8. That was prior to 2024. But right now, the one that was released on March 5, a few days ago,
right,
it placed Nigeria at number 6. And it's not placing now. If you look at the index that Nigeria was giving, that made it worrisome. In other words, again, let me also give the analysis of a classroom teacher. A pupil or a student might come first or come second or third in a class, but if you look at this percentage of performance, probably something very, very low, maybe less than 60%. So you cannot compare that child or that girl or that boy, as the case may be, in another school who is number 6 or number 7, but whose percentage of performance is 72%. So in other words, those are the things that these researchers look at or probably interrogate when we have the issues of insecurity. And again, if you look at the information, it shows that Nigeria, we say, the helpless in a way. Because in that index, from number 1 to 10, about 5 West African countries are in that category.
Right.
And if those countries are not fine, are not high, one way or the other, it will affect Nigeria. I'm talking of Sahel country. I'm talking of Cameroon. I'm talking of Mali. I'm talking of Niger Republic. That, you see, if you look at it in that global perspective, I would say that all is not well, as I said the other time, when it comes to the issue of insecurity, and to narrow it down to the issue of kidnapping. Thank you so much.
All right. You talked about the Global Terrorism Index released earlier this month, and very instructive it is to note, and you are very correct, to say Nigeria has been ranked 6th in the 2025 Global Terrorism Index with a score of 7.658, moving off from 8th place in 2023 and 2024. And according to that report released on March 5, 2025, Burkina Faso topped the index with a score of 8.581, followed by Pakistan, Syria, Mali, and Niger, which ranked 2nd to 5th, and now Somalia, Israel, Afghanistan, Cameroon, Myanmar, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Iraq, India, Colombia, and Russia ranked 7th to 16, and the report recorded 565 terrorism-related deaths in Nigeria in 2024, highlighting an increase in fatalities over the past 2 years. And this is the same country, that the president has said things have improved, but it seems we are taking 7 steps forward and taking 6 steps backward. But talking about the kidnappings of clergymen, right? One would want to say there is, the document I said earlier, if our producer can put that up, it's one that will concern many persons. The Catholic made this publication, but then beyond the Catholics, the Anglican, many of the organizations, even, Muslims as well, none are spared by these criminals. Now, Prof, what is so lucrative about this set of people that kidnappers are coming for them? Is there anything that they feel they can get? Is it the money? Does the church have that kind of money? Now, we are not even talking about some of these persons kidnapped only in cities. Some of them are from rural areas, parishes of 50 persons, 40 persons. Why are they targets?
Thank you so much. I think one of the things we should note, we should know about bandits or terrorists, especially who kidnap for ransom, is that they will not go after men or women or individuals who have less values. And they will also not go after people who they feel, people that surround them, talking about significant others in their lives, also do not have values. And again, they will also not go after individuals who, when they look at the social status of where they are, which company or organization they work for, will also not go after them. In other words, we're talking about individuals who have strong values, social values in the society. So in other words, yes, that's what they go for. Yes, we're talking about religious organizations or religious bodies. Yes, looking at the surface, we say, okay, the social standings are not there. But if you look at it deep, they have very strong capital standings. So for that very reason, these individuals, bandits will go after such individuals. Number 2 is that they also feel very strong that if they kidnap religious leaders, Catholic or even Anglican or Baptist, they feel that the church will not fold its hands. You know what? The response rate through which the church will want to probably do something will be very, of course, it will be swift. It will be very swift and higher than kidnapping an individual who doesn't belong to a religious body. Because, religious body is amalgamation or coming together of very, various individuals, assembly of various individuals, and anybody who say, wow, what is happening? Oh, to our leader, to the church, to the priest, or to the church pastor, as the case may be, or probably to the chief imam, as the case may be, again. So for that very reason, there will be swift response, and because there will be swift response, people will be able to do something and bring out money for this bandit. Not only that, we even had the situation in the past in which Catholic sisters were also kidnapped. And for that very reason, they know the church will rise, everything will do, put money together. It's not that the money is there. But this, as I said the other time, the response is what is there. And because of the response and because of the agitation to say, please, do not let us waste time, they know they will look for money anywhere for them to be able to look, to release the people kidnapped who are in the bondage of a criminal. So that is the reason. It's not as if the money is there per se, but the fact that they want to say, okay, if you do it, then there will be swift responses.
Thank you so much, Prof. Taking a closer look at the reports released by Agenzia Fides right now, the most affected areas, the most affected provinces. I just want us, Prof, to take a closer look at this report. Now, if you look at the Southeast region, they had the highest prevalence. For instance, Owerri province, 47 cases, 47 priests were kidnapped in Owerri. This is the highest number of kidnappings, indicating a high-risk region for clergy. Despite the high number of kidnappings there, all but 2 priests were released safely, suggesting effective rescue efforts or ransom payments. So in Owerri, we have 47 kidnapped. In Onitsha province, we have 30 cases of kidnappings. Then in Kaduna, we have 24 cases. Now, I want us to look at this. We've seen that we have 47 cases in Owerri, we have 30 in Onitsha, and 24 in Kaduna. But if we look at the fatalities here, Kaduna actually recorded the highest number of deaths. Out of 24 kidnapped in Kaduna, 7 were killed. So, Prof, I would like to ask, number one, why are we having more kidnappings in the Southeast? More priests are being kidnapped in the Southeast. But again, if we look at it, Prof, most of them have been released. But in Kaduna State, where 24 were kidnapped, 7 were killed. So how do we explain this, Prof? Is it that they are not doing, the rescue effort is not so effective in Kaduna, or they are just deciding to? Is it an act of terrorism here? How do we explain this? Number one, the high prevalence of kidnappings in the Southeast, but again, most of them were released. But in Kaduna, the highest number were killed. So how do we explain this, Prof?
Thank you so much. Remember, we're talking about the Catholic Church. So if you're talking about the Catholic Church, we also talk about the demography of Catholic Church in Nigeria. If we look at the demography of Catholic Church in Nigeria, Catholic Church of people who believe as Catholics are more in the Southeast Nigeria. That's the very first perspective we should look at that. I'm not saying they are not in other parts of the country. They are, but the prevalence, the number, more Southeasterners belong to that body of church than other Nigerians. I must say that. That's the very first thing. So for that very reason, we have more of that cases in the Southeast. And of course, you gave the Kaduna example where 24 Catholic priests were also kidnapped. You know what? If you look at that, it's very close to the one in Onitsha, which was about 30 Catholic priests. But then the another dimension now is that where the ones in Owerri and Onitsha kidnapped were released after payment of ransom. The ones in kidnapped in Kaduna, 24, some were released and 7 were killed. Now we now have the dimension of terrorism here. You see, kidnapping is not the same thing as terrorism, but there come all other elements of criminality, I must say that. And for that very reason, there are issues here. One, for those kidnapped in the southeastern part of the country, the main motive is what we refer to in criminal justice and security study as commodification. In other words, they have commoditized kidnapping for ransom. And of course, there are cases in which money that people have gotten from kidnapped individuals in this country. In fact, there was a study carried out recently in which shows huge amount of money in dollars, equivalent in dollars, that people were kidnapped. So the main motive when it comes to kidnapping is to get money, to get ransom, huge amount of money. Now, we now have in Kaduna where we have the issue of terrorism. So in other words, two things roll into what this time around, kidnapping, then the issue of terrorism or banditry. And again, another thing has to do with the issue of the individuals involved in the kidnap situation this time around. These are ISWAP, they call it ISWAP or ISWAP. Then we talk about the Al-Qaeda too, kind of a thing. Then we talk about the Boko Haram, who talk so much about their ideologies, which are not in tandem with the ideology of Christianity for that very reason. That could also be another reason. These are facts we must say, whether we like it or not. Right. And for that very reason, if individuals are kidnapped, they are Catholic who profess a faith against the ideology and faith of this individual. One, the brutality will be there, I must say. Number two is that, yes, they get money, and where they are not able to get money on time, probably they will also pay, okay, such people have to pay supreme sacrifices. Like it happens when they kidnap Chibok girls. Many were there were saying they have to renounce their faith and take this. So all this roll into one could be probably a good account for the reason why 7 of them were killed. Right. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. And, quick one. Let me say here that the documents we're rolling, are just, those published by the Catholic Church and, some of the news publications from their end. But then beyond the Catholic Church, Anglican, Protestant, Orthodox, many, parishioners have been kidnapped, worshippers, even right there in the place of worship. Terror has been meted out to several persons. A few years ago, it happened very brutally in Norway. If you can remember, Prof, that very terror that was meted out in that particular place. Now, these are some of the things that we are seeing. So it's not just about the Catholic Church. It's about Nigerians. I said it earlier, students, like 10 days ago, thereabouts, some Benue University students were kidnapped. Was it 2 days ago? Those days, some surveyors were kidnapped. That is the issue. The dimension, the issue here for me, Prof, is it seems we are making progress. And all of a sudden, we will see this setback. Oh, we are getting it better here. There are no farmers' elders crisis. And we think, oh, things have improved. And boom, you still have some of these issues. Is it the strategy that is wrong? Is it that these criminals, what exactly is their motivation? Because the Nigerian army, the security architecture will say they are doing their best. Now, let me add this. Few days ago, was it yesterday, the Senate or the House of Reps, had to give a strong warning that the security chiefs, they have been summoned. They have not answered, including the NSA. And it seems everybody will just go there when they have the time. These are some of the issues. When the National Assembly is calling on security chiefs to say, we want to see you, and they are not being seen. Yesterday, some of them, over time, warrant of arrest has been ordered on their heads. Nothing has happened. Where are we getting it wrong in this battle?
Yes. Before I respond to where we are getting it wrong, let me commend the Nigerian Army. I must say this because I interface with the Nigerian Army when it comes to the issue of research. I think I once told you on this platform, on this program, of my intervention in Kaduna. When we were in Kaduna, one division, let me put just, yes, it's not even over because we will still go there probably in April or May this year. I know what happens talking about the operational theaters in the Northeast and Northwest. I think we must commend the Nigerian Army security architecture. I must commend that. But then while doing that, I think it now comes to the issue of the community now. You see, criminality, banditry, insurgency, or terrorism will thrive where the community is not providing the needed assistance, where the community is not providing what I talk about, what I call community intelligence. So these are issues. I think we must address this very, very well. Number two, as you said, in the course of asking this question, it's not about Catholic priests. It's not about probably any church leaders, either Protestant, Baptist, name it, and so on and so forth. It's not even about students. Every Nigerian is susceptible to be kidnapped. As long as they feel if you kidnap you, they will get something. You talk about Sobio that happened in Ondo State recently. We have women out to go naked to protest. Yeah. And again, when you made reference to what happened in our world, I think 3 years ago or so, we have many people were killed in the church, the Catholic Church. So we're talking about all these things. Now, you're not talking about, you not reference where the Senate called the security chiefs to come. Yeah, you see, I don't know why they've not responded to the call of the Senate. I'm not saying that, but I'm not saying no matter what, they ought to have responded. I'm not saying it. What the Senate wants to hear from them is, how far, what is happening? What is happening? I think they have to respond. Or probably if for operational reason, probably they're busy, I mean, for one thing or that, I think she should send probably messages to the Senate and say, sorry, who come, what is this, what is happening? Or the chief of Army Staff, or probably the chief of Naval Staff also said, probably somebody should go and explain what is happening. But having said that, the question now is, where do we get wrong? We got it wrong for many, many years in the past. And we've worked hard as a country to make sure we overcome this. But there are issues around us that are beyond us as a country that's further fueling all these things. We're talking about the arms and ammunition that are in circulation. How do we control the arms and ammunition that are in control? I mean, that are in circulation, rather. How do we how about the issue of border issues, porous borders? Are we talking about this? We have a number of recognized borders. When I use recognized borders that are in the paper that the federal government know about. We also have other borders that the Nigerian government does not know about. And for that very reason, these are routes through which arms come to the country and so on. And remember, many of these arms that come to the country, many of these arms were not intended, I use the word intended, for criminality. Criminality goes this time around. Some were fell into the country for the issue of mining. And for that very reason, after probably using it for mining, they also got to some wrong hands and that they use it for nefarious activities. Of course, some were imported or fell into the country, in quote, as well, for the purpose of terrorism and banditry again. So we need to address the issue of the border security. We need to address the issue of border security. Again, I made reference to our neighbors, countries, our neighbors, as long as there is that diplomatic relationship is not strong with Nigeria and countries like Mali, Niger Republic, then there will be issues as well. Mind you, if you look at the fact that Mali and I think Niger Republic are even far, ahead of Nigeria when it comes to the issue of terrorism index. So in other words, the porousness there, even Libya, where of course there are issues there. So those are places I think we also need to look at. Number 3 is the fact that for long, when this thing started, I always make reference to this in 2009. Then the Nigerian government did not take it as something very, very serious there. But it got out of hand. And unfortunately, there's just this thing we talk about in security circle, I mean, in security literature, that you can only stop terrorism from starting. The moment it starts, the moment it starts, you only be making efforts to really reduce it. You can't stamp it out again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Prof, for that analysis. Now, looking at this case, Prof, I would like to ask, we are very religious in Nigeria. Prof, do you see a religious undertone to these kidnappings? And here's what I mean. We have almost 150 Catholic priests that have been kidnapped so far. The first question is this: why are they targeting Catholic priests? We have a lot of Christians in Nigeria, okay? We have other forms of Christianity in Nigeria. Why Catholic priests? Is there a perception that the Catholic Church is wealthy enough to pay ransom? That's number one. Why the high prevalence of kidnapping among Catholic priests? That's number one. Number two, do you see a religious undertone to this? Okay, because we've not had reports, precise reports of a huge number of Islamic priests being kidnapped. That's my question, sir. Do you see a religious undertone to this?
Thank you so much. In all honesty, I do not see a religious undertone to this. We may not have the data, the statistics of the Muslim clerics that were kidnapped, but I know it happens. I know that people kidnapped, probably in the past, or probably that will be kidnapped again, will not have Muslim clerics among them. But the statistics might not be as high as those of the other religious leaders, the other faith, Christianity. It may not be high. Now, when we now narrow it down to the issue of Catholic Church, again, we have to go back to the basic, talking about what the religious bodies look like, or denominations look like. Let me put it that way. Of course, whether you like it or not, you will believe, I think you should believe, or you believe with me, that the Catholic Church is much more organized in terms of resources coming in and like that. Of course, there are other churches, of course, that are also very organized. I must say that. But you look at the organization of the Catholic Church, you look at the fact that right from the beginning, where people enlist either to be a father, to be a sister, and they go down through the rank, of course, right, things like that. So number one, I do not see the issue of religious dimension to this. I must say that. But if you now look at the denominations now, of course, the Catholics seem to be much more susceptible to being kidnapped than other sects or than other denominations. Fine. And I provided reasons in the past why this may probably be the reasons why. But that notwithstanding, I've seen leaders of Presbyterian churches also that were kidnapped. Right. But we're talking about statistics. It might be that these other individuals or the other denominations do not give us the statistics.
All right.
But that they give us statistics, we may have something much more higher than the Catholic Church.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, Prof. We would still like to have you, in the coming days, because I remember as during 2010, 11, 12, when the issues came up and all of those things, and it was rife, many persons were told how to handle it. Oh, in fact, when many of us were serving, you were told, don't go about in your gears, don't make loud calls, don't talk about your finance in public institutions and public bosses and all of those things. Maybe one of these days we'll have the time for you to tell us, while the kinetic approach is going on, what can we do so that we are not open as targets to some of these criminals? But we must sincerely thank you, Professor Oyeso Jaremu, a university donor and scholar of repute. Thank you for your time and your take, sir.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Good morning.
We appreciate you. We take this break. When we return, we switch gears. Stay with us.